Hey, how's it going today? And I'm just going to talk about how to make a mirror in LightWave. This is something that's good to know how to do. There's a lot of uses for it. It gets into a lot of psychological things. You'll see in a lot of stories where a character is looking in a mirror. It's almost kind of a cliche, but it kind of gives the thing of self-awareness. First, I'd like to say is thanks to Prometheus, and also thanks to Tim Parsons for posting on the LightWave forum. If you search under making a mirror, they both posted with their different settings. Looks like Prometheus is doing it with BSDF, just one layer, and Tim Parsons is using 2 layers. And 2-layer technique is the one that I went with, not that one's right or the other. They both seem to give you the same effect, but I just like the idea of making the mirror in 3D like a mirror is constructed in reality. So if I jump into LightWave, it's hard to tell from looking at this, but I have 2 layers, 2 circular layers. According to the instructions that Tim Parsons has, he tries to put these as close together as possible. So I believe they're only separated by a millimeter, which, if you think about, that's pretty amazing, right? I mean, I think like we can even get closer than that. So, but you can't even see that there's 2 layers there. Interesting. I'll just play around with this for a second here and show you a couple things that I thought was kind of interesting. The top layer, I have it as double-sided. And the second layer I have is double-sided too, and I have it as opaque. It doesn't seem to matter if I have opaque on or not here. But this is just the standard dielectric. You press F8 for that. If you just press F8 and go to glass. And then the back layer, this is the one that was recommended, pushing this all the way up high, 80 to 90% metallic for the back layer. And I guess if you change this color, I have it black, but if you change it to a lighter, you can play around with that as well. But I just had it at black, actually. Let me just match my camera perspective here real fast. I'll just go over the settings real fast. Here we are in VPR, and I'm going to render this frame out, but I've got to up the quality settings here. What's interesting, this is truly a mirror because I'm in the physical sky right now. And what's interesting is if I click on this and I go to the environment light, and I talked about heading, how the sun can move around the scene. So you can see as it's moving around, we can actually see what's we can actually see what the sky looks behind us, which is really kind of cool. So I'm just going to kind of leave it like that. It's just a lot of fun to play around with this particular effect. But in my particular settings, and I'll show this to you. So this is the back layer that's only a millimeter away from this layer. And this is just black. I have the specular up. I am not noticing much difference with that. Not noticing much difference even with putting up the metallic. But on this first layer, I noticed you had to have double-sided on, or you're not going to get any effect. And what's interesting about this is that if I start bumping up the refraction, I start having some different effects. So it seemed like, honestly, that I was getting the best effect with almost no refraction. And it's interesting, just with refraction at like 1, you don't get anything. So I would say that refraction at 0, or somewhere in there. So really that's the only 2 settings, is the refraction you might want to play around with, and you might want to play around with the back layer. And interestingly, you can just do this as 1 layer with just a BSDF2. So there's not just one way to do this, there's 2 ways. And so you just have to pick the way that makes the most sense for you and works for you. But it's a really super cool effect, and it's very useful. So anyway, that's all I had for today. So take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Oh, hey, before I go, I wanted to show you one cool thing, and I don't know, maybe LightWave Guru can do this as a special assignment. I realized what you could do, and I'll have to play around with this, but I was thinking if there's any way to perhaps make these layer as a cloth. I was thinking you might be able to get kind of a matrix effect. So if I'm on my main character, and if I go in on the Z axis, you can actually go through the mirror. So I thought that might have some application. I kind of have them offset from the mirror there a little bit. So maybe I can move it over here a little bit. I'm not sure how I'll move him. Let me move him. I think that's what I did, is I moved him. Might be hard to see this. Well, check this out. Look, he goes out. I'll render this out. But here, I'll have him go through right into the mirror. Cool, right? If this could be liquefied somehow, so you know what I'm going to do is let me turn him around 180 degrees, right? And then he would come through the mirror. He's off a little bit. Hold on. Back this way. I didn't make a very big mirror. Maybe I should have made the mirror bigger. But I think I'm going to explore that. Let me get this a little bit more light in here. Let me just go to my environment light real quick. A little bit more daylight in here. So it would be something like, what frame are we on? Okay, so if he would come in, let me get on him. He come up on the Z, right? Like, I'll render this out. Okay, anyway, just something to think about. I'll talk to you next time.